Board of Selectmen meeting for March 25th, 2019. Meetings being audio and video recorded. First, would you lead me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is an executive session. I'm going to call for a motion to go into executive session for the following purpose: to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME Local 2905, Massachusetts Coalition of Police Local 360, and Teamsters Local 170 pursuant to the state open meeting law, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town. We will not return to open session.
Give me that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to go into executive session has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Roll call vote.
Second.
Oh, you second. Aye.
Cliff.
Rufus, no.
Aye, Cliff Pierce.
Aye, Joe Perry.
I did, Peterson.
Okay.
We will return to open session.
Yes, we will.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Here we go.
okay, we're back in open session. We have a 7 o'clock appointment with former highway tree foreman Ron Keefe to receive a proclamation in gratitude of his years of service. I guess I'll read the proclamation. We, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Rowley, Massachusetts, by virtue of the authority vested in us by the people of Rowley as elected officials, do hereby proclaim that Ronald Keefe, it was Ronald, not Ron, having faithfully served in an exemplary manner as highway and tree foreman for 12 years, including 1 year of acting highway surveyor, and on the occasion of his resigning from this service, the Board of Selectmen wishes to bestow its most sincere gratitude and best wishes. We urge all citizens of the town, its community leaders, business and government officials to recognize his achievement and service. In witness whereof, we have hereby set our hands and the seal of the Town of Rowley this 25th day of March 2019. Congratulations.
I'll give you a motion to, you need a motion?
Yeah, I guess so.
Second.
Motion to make the proclamation, made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
those opposed? The ayes have it.
Just want to say, Ron, for a good number of years, certainly helped us out year after year, and the year that you filled in after Scott passed away was exemplary. We're sorry to see you go. It's good for you, but we are sorry to see you go. And workers like yourself they're tough to find these days, you know. You always did whatever was required, so believe me, we appreciate it.
You taking note?
That's quite true, Ron. You did a heck of a job.
I appreciate it.
With Scott passing, picked up what had to be done. You did it, and the town greatly appreciates your efforts.
Does that go in that?
You know, the
No,
town's in good
yeah,
hands.
right.
Just in case I get my job back. I know there's a pool going around. I know.
We won't change the numbers.
Proclamation. Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
service.
Thank you, Ron.
Good luck, Ron.
I didn't get a goodbye.
Luck with everything. Can we get a picture of you with the selectmen?
Sure.
Yes.
Joe, down in the front.
Let me get my camera.
You're in the middle.
I gotta get further.
No one can see you, Joe.
Gotta get over on this side.
I'll be in the back. Why don't you bring your wife up, too, if you want to
You want to get in?
Oh, come on.
Last time we were in a picture together was our wedding.
Excuse me.
I can't suck in it anymore.
Me either.
Come on.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Behave.
Want all the best.
Thanks, Will.
Okay, the public comment from now until 7:20. We have an appointment with Treasurer-Collector Karen Summit and Town Administrator Debbie Egan to discuss the Light Department cash balance and health insurance payments. There's a couple of issues we need to address. Number one has to do with cash. The Light Department has been running a consistent deficit on a month-by-month basis since the beginning of January 2018 in the Light Department cash account. The general fund has been subsidizing this deficit and has now reached $455,163. Treasurer Karen Summit is planning to separate the Light Department cash and general fund cash effective June 1, 2019. The practice of commingling the Light Department's cash with the town's cash is permitted by statute. However, these significant and consistent drawdowns from the town's cash account affect the town's liquidity. The town is losing the opportunity to collect interest from this money. The second issue is health insurance and Medicare. Currently, the town's employee health insurance and Medicare budget line covers the payment for light and water department employees. This practice is authorized under the indirect cost allocation policy. The water department and the light department reimburse the town at the end of the fiscal year under this policy. Because the cost of health insurance and Medicare are so significant, we are asking the Board of Selectmen to change the policy under numbers 2 and 7 so that these two departments are billed as costs incur. This will result in significant upfront savings for the town. The FY20 Water Department draft budget has already factored in this direct expense. The estimated cost will be about $10,000 per month for both departments. If the board is in agreement, we will submit a revised indirect cost allocation policy to be approved effective July 1, 2019. Karen and Debbie, would you like to address this further, or anything else you need to say about the cash issue first?
I guess the cash issue, I don't know what happened in their fiscal year 18, but they basically, ran into the negative further and further and further. I don't know why this wasn't addressed at some point during the year. I did talk to Matt today, and he has said that they intend to remedy this going right now through a transfer from their stabilization account. And going forward, I just think in the interest of transparency and doing, my job is to do what's best for the town and the general fund, and that I think is for us to earn interest on our money and not being like a line of credit to the light department, because they are a separate enterprise fund and need to support their budgets and their rates. And
So, any comments?
So, Matt Brown, I'm the new lake manager here in town. I started March 4th, so we're diving right into this right off the bat, and that's no problem at all. I spoke with Sue. The health insurance, I suggested quarterly. Sue had some concerns, and we more or less agreed on we would do monthly. I need to speak with the accountants, and we'll make it happen. We want to be a good neighbor. I agree with everything you said. It's we are separate, and I totally understand. We just need to shuffle some things around and kind of dig in a little deeper and find out why we were in that, ended up in the negative for 2018.
Right.
So, again, I did just start. I'm aware that we did take a slight dip in 2017. I do know, from being around, that 2018 was a tough year for a lot of light departments. We're not alone with our situation. But we can shuffle some things around, look closer, and find out what the real root of the problem is, and remedy the situation.
Okay, so ultimately, this is a problem for the light department to address, not the town, right?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, as for the past 45 days, less than 45 days, I've been chairman of the Light Board. Matt has been on board for 3 weeks now as the light manager. I have gone through last year's audit, and at last year's audit, we were something like what was it, $183,000 or something in the black. I've had several conversations with Matt and with Karen over this. And I talked to Matt the other day. In another conversation, I've asked for a special meeting of the Light Board this Wednesday night, and we will address revenues, collections, financials, and budgets. And we will take immediate action, and we'll go from there.
Oh, good. Okay, so effective June 1, the Light Department will be able to take cash drawdowns from the town's account, is that correct?
No, what will happen is on June 1st, we'll split the two accounts.
Right.
And I'm doing this June 1st because that gives us a month to remedy anything. So we're in a good state and, confident that everything is split properly by the end of June, which is the end of our fiscal year. So we'll start working on that.
Okay, do you need a vote from this
Not
board?
for that, because that is, under my statutory authority, I
Right.
can do that.
Okay.
I just got one quick question, Mr. Chairman. It's a rather dramatic change from one year to the next. Is it a matter of people not paying bills, or is it, you know what I mean? When you look at the chart we have here in color, it goes from everything going up to all of a sudden, everything's down. It seems like somebody flipped the switch, and all of a sudden, there's no money.
Yeah, the way that reads, it certainly looks like, it was a year-long thing, and we need to look
Just
into
a,
it.
just a
lot
comment
closer.
about it. That's
There
right.
is, just to answer your question, there is some collection issues that we're addressing as well.
All right, that's
It
good.
is that time of year coming up in April.
Right.
Some emails went around this morning and some conversations we had this morning, and
Okay.
we are on it, and we'll turn this around.
All right.
Tune in Wednesday night, you'll get some straight talk.
Yeah, no, it's rather dramatic, that's all. It's on that.
Yeah, just reading through the chart here, you have 2 months there where you have expenses of 900,000 or higher, and in receipts of much lower, hundreds of thousands of dollars lower. It's just incredible to see that difference. I mean, in May, you had receipts that were 325,000 less than what you had for expenses, and almost 400,000 in November.
I've asked the treasurer collector to be at Wednesday night's meeting.
No, it's good to get a handle on it, that's good, that's good. Welcome, we hate to have you come in new.
Yeah, really.
Facing this wall of-
It's nice to meet you, by the way.
Well, it's up to the challenge, so it's,
Okay, good.
get right on it.
Okay, so as to issue number 2, if I'm reading this correctly, as of July 1, the town is going to change its cost, or you're proposing that the town
Correct.
change its cost allocation policy to prohibit the Light Department from charging the town for its health insurance and
Well-
Medicare costs. Is that putting,
The way it used to work was what happened was the town got billed for the whole town, including the light and water, and we would pay that, and at the end of the year, we would get reimbursed by the enterprise funds.
right,
But those numbers, like the numbers for health insurance and, the Medicare is based off of payrolls, those numbers have gotten so big that the town, once again, ends up, budgeting and paying those, and then we get reimbursed at the end of the year. And this way, what we would do is when the bill comes in, we would just allocate it. So this much, will get charged to the light, this much to the water, this much to the general fund. And the same thing with the Medicare, because that's a flat percentage of payroll. So when the bills go up to accounting, instead of just being charged to one line, they'll be charged to 3 separate lines.
okay, so,
And that's why the indirect cost policy will need to be amended to cover that.
right. So does that require a vote of the selectmen?
It will, but I think,
You can either vote, if that's okay with the board, we'll amend this and have the board re-vote this.
Okay, no, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to emphasize, the light department has always reimbursed the town for these expenses.
Oh, definitely.
So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the loss of income on
On
the
it.
Right,
money
they're
that.
they're two separate issues.
Right.
They're two totally separate issues. But, you know, what has happened is, you know, the cost of health insurance, probably when this policy was written, you know, was a minor thing. So we were talking that the reimbursement back to the general fund was a small account.
Mhm.
Now it's a couple $100,000.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments? Makes sense to me. Okay, so, thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to Raleigh.
Yep.
Good luck.
We'll get there. Thank you. All set?
All set. Thank you, Matt.
Have a good night, everybody.
I too, right now.
Okay, we now have an appointment with Council on Aging Director Brianne Walsh to discuss the FY20 Council on Aging budget. Good evening, Brianne.
Good evening, how are you? It's nice to see you all as always.
You can read your letter or make a presentation, however you'd like.
I think I'll read the letter, it's usually easier that way I can follow along. So I wrote this letter when I submitted my budget last week. To the Honorable Raleigh Board of Selectmen, once again, budget season has arrived, and I will be appearing before you today, Monday, March 25th, 2019. This year, as in years past, I will ask for your assistance and that of the Raleigh community in ensuring that the seniors of this town have what they need during the upcoming fiscal year and beyond. As you all know, the seniors of Raleigh are a proud civic-minded grouping, involved in many areas of the community, from volunteering at the polls, working at the church thrift shop, assisting town offices and constituents in the senior tax credit program, and many other engaging activities. At the COA, we strive to provide as much progressive, innovative, and enjoyable community programming as possible. We offer dynamic educational seminars, awaken new talents in older adults through our craft and art classes, inform and help seniors and disabled adults face hardships and difficult topics head-on, with presentations on issues important to their daily living such as finances, housing, legal matters, food assistance, healthcare, and much more. We do all of this on a limited budget and year to year strive to offer more. This year I have requested an additional $5,000 in our budget so that we can adequately cover our operating and programming expenses while continuing to offer cutting-edge resources and engagement opportunities. I hope that the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the Raleigh community of voters will continue to stand behind our seniors and approve this request so that we can continue to provide the quality and excellence that the Raleigh Senior Center is known for. I am honored and proud to serve in Raleigh as the COA Director and enjoy my work immensely. I look forward to another incredible year as fiscal year 2020 approaches. As always, I thank you in advance for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so your wages have gone up by over $8,000.
Yes.
That's due to the increase in the non-union employee wage schedule, right?
That's
So
correct.
that's all that's involved there.
Yep, that's correct.
And expenses have increased by $5,000.
That would be the request, yes, the $5,000 for the expenses.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Walsh put in the issues and options form, the reasons why she's trying to increase the programming. So that's where that number's coming from. At this point, we're still trying to work on the budget and see what we can afford that was outside of the guidelines. So just take, the board can take that into consideration if we have to maybe revise that number or not. I just don't know yet.
Okay, but we should vote on it tonight?
You could take a tentative vote tonight with
Yep.
it in or without it in. I just don't know on that expense line, the additional.
You're not talking about the wages then, right?
No, the wages are fine.
Yeah, okay.
It was just the issues and options form. And she has very valid explanations, and it's something we really need to do at some point.
Yeah, my attitude kind of is that, you know, we pay a lot to the schools every year. And every year, the seniors kind of take a hit on, we give them minimal amounts of money and funding, and some of the positions are hour-wise are not what they really should be.
Well, we manage the best we can, and you know, we do everything that we can, you know, within our working hours, and myself personally outside, you know, as much as we possibly can. But having that ability to do the extra programming and bring extra things here, especially with issues like housing and, you know, financial exploitation and several other things, healthcare, that come up. You know, the more we can offer and the more we can help people, the better we can do that. But some things, you know, we do as much as we can with free and you know, low-cost programming, but there are some things out there that I would love to be able to do that do require a little bit more.
Sure.
Okay, I would just like to note that when we get to the point where we know exactly what we got for funding, I'd like to see this go to the top of the list. I think it's well worthwhile, and I don't spend a lot of time down there, but I know they do a lot of good work, and
Not a huge sum of money.
it's not a huge sum of money, and we've level funded expenses for so many, for so many years. I mean, it's gone from FY18, 14,889 to 19, 14,904, so you got about $15 extra
Yeah.
in the expense budget. And you were level funding, other than this request for the 5, you're level funding again. So I think there's a real need here for that 5,000, and I really hope that we can add that.
So, Mr. Chairman, why don't we keep this budget intact, and then if there's some reason when we're trying to finish the budgeting process, we can go back and maybe, you know, if it has to reduce marginally or something.
Right.
I think if the board feels strongly about it, let's just keep it in. And
Yeah, in other words, we'll approve the 5,000 with the possibility that if we are short, we may have to take part of it or all of it, but we'll do the best we can to give you the priority on keeping it in, so.
Which we appreciate. And
If that's the case, I'll make the motion to do that budget as submitted with the option of reducing the 5,000 increase in expenses if needed.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Hopefully the handicap ramp's gonna be
I
added
hope-
before too long. We're about to bid on it now, and we're anxious to get that repaired
I
before
hope so.
summer.
They'll be excited.
Oh, yeah,
I appreciate it.
definitely
Thank you.
needs it.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, Mary, take
Thank
care.
Hi, Mary.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Sue.
Good evening.
Hi, Sue.
Am I up next?
Okay, next up is an appointment with Town Clerk Susan Hazen to discuss the FY20 Town Clerk budget, the FY20 election budget, the FY20 Board of Registrars budget, and the FY20 Constable budget.
So do you want to discuss all of those? I was here last week and we discussed, no one seemed to have any problem with anything but the election wage budget. And I can certainly go over all those others again, which have no particular changes in it.
I
The
could
minimum
just say-
wage, I was
If I could
trying to,
just say, Mr. Chairman, in other words, the problem was we revised the non-union pay scales, and the clerk's office had not updated in conjunction with what we did, so.
so then I
Sue
submitted
met-
a revised budget exactly with those pay scales, but I issued a concern that the pay scales weren't, what am I gonna say, leveled right. Various jobs. I discovered that a supervisory job made 5 cents more than the people they were supervising, which didn't seem to make sense. So I had a meeting with the personnel board, and they readjusted
Oh.
steps and grades. Really more than I had expected. I was only asking for that one job to be reissued, to be addressed. And they looked at all of them and readjusted them all. And so the revision number 2 reflects that step and grade change that the personnel board approved last week.
And the other issue in conjunction with that is because they're at one of the first low steps on the pay scale, we're running into a situation where the minimum wage, which is towns exempt from, but we still would like to at least pay our employees minimum wage. And those jobs, those people are there for 10, 12 hours, or
13, 14.
from 13 or 14, depending, so
The 13-hour election, that's at least a 14-hour.
So it basically went from tellers at 13.20, clerks at 14.51, constable 14.51, and the warden 15.96. So this fits in with the overall pay scale that we tried to change this year, so. I'll give you a motion to approve the budget.
Second.
Motion to approve the town clerk's budgets has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is an appointment with Water Commissioner Bernard Cullen to discuss proposed FY20 Water Department budget. Bernie, you've written us a rather long memo. Do you want to walk us through that, or?
Your call.
Huh?
Your call.
Yeah, could you walk us through
Yeah,
that?
all right.
Don't mind?
So the first paragraph, item 1, is that in last year's ATM town report, our budget was included, and there was an error in that budget. And essentially, in the expenses, I included a copy of the actual budget that was in that report in the package. And so if you look under the expense line for the FY19 request, number on line 6, department expense as in maintenance is 523,000. That should actually be 618,000. Somehow in the Excel, we can't figure out where the error occurred, but that's the error. It should have had 618,000 on that line, and then the addition of 95,000 onto that 618 would have given 703, 713, which is what the subtotal of expenses should have been. So that's the error. So we want to be, upfront, put it on the table. The one issue that it makes it complicated for anybody looking at the budget is the year-over-year comparisons are all screwed up because that number is wrong. It did present a challenge in terms of managing to that lower number, because once you've set the budget and it's voted on, that's what we have to go by. But we can manage to that much lower number by using the 75,000 that's in line 10, which is extraordinary and unforeseen expenses, but we'll come back to you with a more specific request once we're closer to the end of the year and we know exactly how much money we need to pull from that account. So that's the old business, but it's important to understand what those numbers are, because we're going to, as we move forward, you need to make some comparisons. So that's the first item. Anybody have comments or questions on that? Because otherwise I'll just rabbit on. Okay, so the item number 2, for the last 2 years at least, we've realized that our revenues have been far in excess of our expenses. Some of that is because we've been carrying unfilled positions which are with substantial salaries attached to them. Others are that we've got better management practices and people have been cutting away at the expenses, and we've been more diligent in not spending money that we don't have to spend. So we feel at this point we're in a position to reduce our rate starting on July 1st and for fiscal year 20 by 10%. Now we could do more given the size of our stabilization fund, but in the terms of prudence it's better to start and then see how that works along, and then look at reducing it further in subsequent years. But in terms of choosing the 10%, the plan is to once we reduce that rate, is to actually hold it for at least 3 years. So this is a 3-year commitment in terms of the rates, bearing some act of God in terms of, a prolonged drought where we can't sell any water, which means that nobody has to pay for the water, which means we're in a different kind of situation. So we know it's happened before, 2017. We don't think it's going to happen again. And we think we've got a handle on the way we spend the money in such a way that we can manage through those things. And we do have, again, the substantial stabilization fund, as well as the funds for the extraordinary and unforeseen expense, and that would qualify under that rubric. So in terms of the coming year, in terms of our projections of revenue, for the last 3 years, consumption has essentially been around 120 million gallons. I mean, it's remarkably stable. And that's what we can project going forward, and we just use a lower rate at this point, and that's how we get the new revenue numbers. The other thing that is slightly unpredictable in terms of figuring out what the revenue is, estimating the revenue, is that we have a 5% rebate on bills. Now, what happens is, since the bills are high, people kind of can't have a harder time paying them earlier, which means fewer people use the rebate. So as we drop the rates, we expect our percentage of rebates to go up, which I think people have appropriately taken advantage of. So at the moment, it's about, on average, that rebate is about 3.7% of the actual bills, and we expect that to be we've planned on it being about 4.35 going forward. So that's the only other thing that impacts the revenue. Any questions on that? It's good news, right?
Yeah, great news.
Bernie, just one question. Are the plans in the future for water main replacement? I know it's not going to happen real quick, but in the long range, I'm sure we.
Well, with the change in management, shall we say, we've reviewed what the request was, because it was an assessment of the physical plant, and there are definitely some older mains. But we're monitoring where the breaks are and the nature of the breaks, etc. And there's no indication that we ought to be planning aggressively to replace any mains. It's simply not the case. Earlier, when they did the capital assessment plan, I don't understand. I mean, that was happened just as I joined the board, so I'm not clear exactly what judgments were made. It was a very kind of systematic analysis of the entire 40-odd miles of mains, but that doesn't mean to say it was a prudent, or their assessments of risk would be, should we say, validated by the people who are working on those mains every day. So now we try to encourage the input from Bob Gray and Rob Swinarski on an ongoing basis, so we're getting the direct input of the people who see it. Before, it was just the engineers using judgments about the age of the pipes. Well, there's a huge variance attached to it. I figure at this point, although I'm not a qualified engineer, that we can probably build up and wait till we paid off the water plant before we engage in that expenditure. So we'd rather go back to that source of funding than essentially start using stabilization funds. Plus, if you start this, if you're going to do a piece of this work, you're talking about $5 million minimum. Well, we're already going to have to go back out to the bond market to kind of pay that money. So it doesn't really make any sense whatsoever to kind of do it at this point. Now, clearly, if there was a stretch of mains that were decaying and we needed to, and we were getting frequent breakages in them, then we would have to address that issue. But it doesn't make any sense to put into place a major project, which is what that had been anticipated before and was factored into the earlier rate study that was done, which would have guaranteed not a reduction in rates, but an increase in rates. And there's no technical justification for it, except if you say you want to replace it, that's what it's going to cost. There wasn't a judgment as to, we're in risk of losing significant.
Okay, it was just a concern that.
No, it's a good question.
Thinking about it, and I think if we can wait till the treatment plant's paid off, obviously that's going to be a huge.
Right, that's what we had
Benefit to
anticipated,
the ratepayers and,
When does the plant get paid off?
2033. So,
And we really don't know what pipes are in.
well, no,
Stress
that was
more
the good point about having done this assessment. We do know where the pipes are. We still get surprised, but
Yeah.
we basically know where the pipes are and what they're made of. Or at least the plan says we do. I certainly don't have the knowledge to do that, but we haven't had any major surprises in terms of.
The first pipes were put in 1947.
Right, and that's, some of them will last and some of them
Some will go
won't.
100 years.
Right, so if you drive a heavy truck over it, or it's
Right.
underneath a heavily utilized road, then certain things are going to happen. And if they've been put in badly, then they will definitely create a problem. So that is hanging out there, but there's nothing that we can do within our annual, or should do within our annual budget, to kind of take care of that type of expense. And it's not a justification for not addressing the excessive rates that we have.
no,
at
that's
the
fine,
moment.
yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah, we did find a minor issue at the Pine Grove when they started with the water connection, that the pipes did not meet the plans.
Right, and there were other issues there that we're going to be, that's one of the projects that's in the capital expenditures that are attached to address the issue of some of the gate valves in that area, which made that a monumental task when it, well, a 3-night task instead of a 1-night task. All right, item 3, the major thing here is that the prior staffing plan, and the staffing plan we'd worked on previously, essentially assumed that we were going to have a primary and a secondary operator on both treatment and distribution. That's 4 positions. And then we would have 2 utility laborers, with the notion that those would be developed, they would be junior people, and we would develop them into those positions. Turns out that we don't really need those utility laborers. We don't have enough activity to kind of keep them busy. So those have been taken off the staffing plan. Now, we would have kept those positions if we hadn't had kind of some very good fortune and success in hiring a junior person, and within 9 months bringing them into a position where they brought themselves into a position where they qualify as a secondary operator. So that means it makes very little sense to kind of have those 2 kind of feeder positions, because our experience, based upon the work that Bob Gray and Rob Swinarski do, they can bring them up to speed, and as long as they're willing and able to kind of put the effort into the licensing exam, they move forward relatively quickly. So we've reduced the staffing level on that in the organization to basically now 4 operators plus a part-time plus the accountant, janitor, and the administrative person, and the superintendent. The budget assumes that all those positions that we've listed, and 2 of them are vacant at the moment, will be filled in FY20. We can't do it any other way at this point. We've got the way the municipal budgets work, we can't even advertise for them unless we've got the money set aside for those.
So that's a water superintendent and which
A
other?
secondary operator / utility laborer, expecting them to go to the secondary operator. Item C here, we've got a couple more projects that are going to have to be done overnight, which means there's a bump up in the overtime, because any work that's done on 1A or 133 needs, you can't do it during the day, essentially. So it needs to be done at night. And the other thing, one of the reasons why it needs to be done at night and with overtime is that it's going to take the entire crew to basically do that work, and they have normal day responsibilities to take care of. The funding for the superintendent's position, that bumped up a little. We'd already tried to anticipate last year, but it now reflects the top of the range, the available range, as the budget item. That doesn't mean to say we're going to start negotiations there. I can assure you we're starting the negotiations as in a conservative fashion as we possibly can. Then there are things that we really don't have any control over. We've fed the numbers from Sue Bailey and the actuaries in terms of retirement health insurance. As Karen mentioned, we are absorbing into our top line now, as opposed to a separate overhead account, the Medicare costs and the health insurance costs. That makes great sense to me. I could never figure out why it was separate. It's our expenses, we should own them, because you can't manage what you can't see. And the last item is, even though I know things have moved forward in terms of the contract with the ASME folks who represent our workers, we've got a contingency line in there based upon the overall compensation for the union personnel. And we calculated it at 3.5%, not knowing where it was going to come. And that includes both regular salary and overtime, because the overtime will be subject to those pay increases as well. Any questions? In terms of operating expenses, now this is where life gets a little complicated. We estimate this year's expenses at $667,140. That's an increase over the line that appeared in the annual town meeting, but that annual town meeting line should have actually been significantly higher. So it actually turns out to be $45,000 less than last year's anticipated expenses, and slightly more than the ones that we signed ourselves up for, which was $618,000. So that's the $95,000 spread there. And again, I want to emphasize that the water board depends heavily on the work of Rob and Bob in terms of scrubbing through the budget and kind of lending their experience eye onto the individual items that are in there. So we try to capture their judgments as to what can be slimmed down. And of course, our questions are, where can we save money? And they show considerable professionalism in terms of looking at those numbers, running their own calculations, because they're capable of doing it, and we're trusting them to do it. So, for example, on the employee training, which is kind of like in their bailiwick, it's in their interest to kind of identify that as accurately as possible. We've saved $14,000 based upon their recommendation of what expenses are really going to be there. The other item which has bigger ramifications is item 4E, which is we need to increase the line for legal expenses because Georgetown has come back to ask us for water again this summer, and then they appear to be far more serious about establishing a longer-term relationship, and if we do that, then we're going to need legal support to kind of draw up a intermunicipal agreement to kind of cover that. And that would be excellent news. That makes that comes to pass. We've been to the altar before and it never got consummated. So hopefully this time it will work, and that will offers us another opportunity beyond our kind of tighter management to reduce rates in the.
Do we pay for that connection, to work?
They have to pay for that, they paid for the last connection, they'll be paying for this connection.
This would be a
Then we
permanent connection.
we're gonna have to work, that's gonna be a more sophisticated look at. We've been working on how to do it, because one of the things we don't want to do is, in some sense, sell water to Georgetown more cheaply than we can provide it to our own town people. I mean, there's a business proposition to be worked through, but we're trying to keep those rates as close as possible.
So
But
you
this is early
anticipate
stages.
burning another temporary hookup this summer?
Yes, they are in serious trouble. So we are we're going to help them out. I mean, we have a fair amount of capacity. Even just running essentially one shift in our water treatment plant with our well capacities and the treatment capacity, we are in reasonable shape to kind of meet their needs. But we're going to cap it. I mean, they can't have everything that they want. We are kind of looking at our capacity and managing it within those parameters.
They have a manganese problem.
We think we have a manganese problem. They have one that's way more. So we don't really want to take. I mean, one option would be for us to take their water, treat it, and give it back to them. No, their water is so tough, and our system really wasn't designed for their levels of manganese, and they're between a rock and a hard place.
So is their problem too much manganese or not enough water, or both? Or?
Both.
Yeah.
Their well is failing, in part because of the manganese, in part because it's failing. So they are looking to kind of do another well. But once you're in the area where there's manganese, just because you move it, they only move it a short distance from the existing wellhead, the odds are they're going to get the same kind of problem. It'll just be a fresh well rather than a worn out well. So it may be good for. At the moment, they can't. They redeveloped their well last year, and it's already gone to pot.
Wow.
So we expect to redevelop our wells every 3 years. So they're in serious trouble. All right. So the shared overhead estimate, that's because we've moved things in and out, that number really doesn't make much sense anymore. It does look like the items which are constant for year over year, like the audit and the accounting, the shared services we benefit from, they've gone up about 5%, and that's largely due to changes in salaries in those two offices. And we just take our share of that. We don't really have much control of it. I would say that both Karen and Sue provide outstanding help for us, and people coming in to ask them really dumb questions and making dumb mistakes with their formulas in Excel. All right. So the next item, which you probably need to pay more attention to, because it's kind of like discretionary items, is we have about $400,000 of capital expenses, and those are listed out on Exhibit 7. You want to take a look at those?
No, they look cool. You gotta do what you gotta do to keep the infrastructure going.
Yeah, the big one is the arrangement of valves and piping at the bottom of Prospect Hill. Last year, this year, we spent about $30,000 with an engineering study to try and figure out exactly where the pipes ran and what needed to be replaced. We have that design, and this is an estimate based upon that design. it has to go out to bid, obviously, and so there's some contingency built in. We hope, though, because we've got about 600,000 of unspent article money, that we want to, in the town meeting, we'll be asking to repurpose some of that for like activities, which I believe is we can do if they're like activities, but some of these are, you can't do that for all of them. So some we're going to go back and pull the money from the stabilization fund, which according to the state's accounting office is in a very healthy state at this point, at around 1.7 million, thanks to last year's free cash.
So the bottom line, Bernie, is you're looking for the budget to go up by, give it to, all the things, the salaries and the expenses and the capital plan, et cetera, along with the debt amounts.
Sorry, I've lost my sheet.
You're actually requesting a drop of almost 9%, is that what I'm?
Yep.
170,000 less than.
Right, that's 170,000. So the bottom line here is FY19 request was 2.38 million, and the request for 20 is 2.2 million, 2.21 million.
Right, okay.
So it is a substantial reduction, but again, part of it is just being sensible about and calling things as they really are. So if we don't need a position, we shouldn't have it in the budget, and just being.
No, it looks like you're really doing a good job up there of getting a handle
Yeah.
on what's going on and how it's being spent, and constantly re-examining the expenses, and it sounds like Rob and Bob are doing an excellent job of working out these budget items, so.
Right, it would be very difficult to do this without their full and total cooperation and professionalism. I mean, because if you.
Okay, so
Excellent.
thank you for the excellent report.
We have to take a
The
motion.
selectmen have a statutory responsibility to make a recommendation on the budget.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we recommend the water department budget as presented.
Second that.
motion to recommend the water department budget has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
Bernie.
indeed.
Thank you.
Good job. Very thorough.
Okay, next is an appointment with Fire Chief James Broderick to discuss the FY20 Fire Department budget and FY20 Emergency Management budget.
Hi, Chief.
Good evening,
Hello.
Chief.
How's it going? We have a revised sheet to give you. Apparently we had a wrong number for the appropriation for wages for the firefighters last year, so I changed the sheet and give it to you.
Mr. Chairman, if you look into your packet, the budget sheet that Chief was referring to, the FY19 appropriation was incorrect. That was before the June town meeting, so he was using a number on the books, but it wasn't the adjusted number.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're looking at doing for fiscal year 20 is an increase of the fire chief wages to $97,300, firefighter wages to $314,482. That will include the 2 new firefighters for the year. Call wages will go up to $108,000 for a total of wages, salaries and wages of $519,782. Expenses up 23%. That's mainly for the cost of the new telephone system in the new station, as well as the utilities, which are numbers I don't really have a good handle on because I don't know what the monthly bills are yet. I haven't moved in yet. So this is a real guess on utility costs. It could be more, could be less. I don't know. To go, and then the station equipment lease is zeroed out, as was voted last week. So the total for expenses will be $165,775. The grand total for the whole budget is $685,557. We'll go to the expenses first. I've level funded most lines. On the dues publication, on the original sheet you have, there was $6,000 in it for to go over suggested operating guidelines for because of the new OSHA standards, to make sure that we're covering things right. Debbie mentioned that I take that out and talk about it with you because it might be a possibility of a article for the. It's a one-time cost of $6,000 to have my guidelines gone over and make appropriate changes. And it would be a vendor that would provide that service that deals with fire departments.
Yeah, no, I think that's
OSHA's required now for the town, so the chief is one piece of that, so I think it would be prudent to just have one appropriation, like an article, doesn't wash out at the end of the fiscal year, that can be drawn out of by the department heads that are going to need to have those OSHA guidelines in place. The fire department, the highway department, so that would be a better way of funding that. So we have a draft that we're working on for that, an article.
That makes sense.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so the every line is level funded until we get to the station phones. There is a new phone system coming online for the new station. I have this is a guess on the how much it's going to cost a year to use is $3,000, but that would include the red baseline, which you notice is zeroed out, and it would transfer all the phones that I have on the Centrex here to over there. So and the internet's included in it too. So it works out to about $20 a phone, but I don't know what the exact number is until the system's in place operating. So again, it's a guess on numbers that was given to me by our IT people. So I wish I had a firmer number, but I really don't have one. I'm guessing that this is what it's going to cost.
Well, we went through the same thing with the police station. In other words, there's a lot of estimated costs. We just don't know. It's going to take a year to.
Yeah, at least a year to figure out. The phone will definitely be a year. The utilities might be a little bit longer to. And it brings us to the utilities. What I didn't change the utilities from the previous Hammond Street station out of this. And I asked for $49,022. Again, I don't know. This may be way more than what I need, but I'm not sure. I can take the $16,214 out of it, and that would bring us to. $32,808 for utilities.
What do you mean you can take the 16,214?
Because I took the 16 that I normally was spending in Hammond Street.
Oh,
I
I
didn't
see.
take that out of the line.
Okay, so the 49,000 includes Hammond Street?
Includes the Hammond Street costs. But I can take that out and it would drop it down to 32,808. But again, that's a guess number on utility costs. We'll have to have a year of being in the station fully to get a better handle on whether it's high or low.
What are the utility costs now for the contractor? Is there anything?
I can't go by them
Yeah, I
because
know.
the lights, they had the doors open, the lights on, the furnace running, so it's not a real true guess of what they're using. They were about $2,800 a month, but like I said, the doors were open, they were running power tools, and,
Hmm.
you know,
No, you can't really.
No.
Yeah, I'd almost say keep it at the 49
Yeah.
and then next year, if
Adjust
we'll have a
readjust it.
better idea of what our costs are gonna be, and hopefully energy costs won't go up. But I'm sure there'll be a reflected difference of something. I wish I could tell you exactly.
Yeah.
One of those, if we run into a problem, we can always go back and take 10,000 off it. We're running short of funds before we do the final budget numbers, so.
Yeah.
But I think we're better off to keep it,
Yeah.
Okay, and then,
I guess.
so, that brings the budget expenses to 165,775. Now for the next part with the wages. I gave you the, schedule for the, 2 shifts, 8 hours each for a total of 16 hours a day. And,
Yeah, Chief, one of the things we were talking about, when you were out on vacation, or away anyway, is maybe have a little bit of an overlap.
we could
In
do
other words,
that.
we were thinking, and it's obviously your decision to make, but like 8 to 4, and then 2 to 10. That gives you a couple hours overtime, a couple of hours overlap, and the other thing we're looking at is that if you're hiring to fill somebody on vacation or something like that, you're hiring for 6 hours instead of 8, which
Right.
saves 25% on.
Yes,
And it gives you some training time, and if you need time to do some administrative work, you bring someone, if a call guy can come in for a couple
Right.
hours, and you got 3 or 4 hours to be able to.
yeah, I could work that out. I've been working that out, and was plus an alternative schedule that would provide 7 days a week coverage with 3 guys on duty, except for 1 day, and it'd be 2, and I could fill in that. And I'm trying to get the number, a better idea of the overtime costs. There may be a trade-off where it may end up with 7-day-a-week coverage for a little less or a little bit more than what I'm asking for here. But yes, if we did do the overlap for a couple hours, like you said, it would reduce the callback or overtime costs for a captain or a firefighter. Being, I'm not sure when they get their vacation time. This is all based on them getting 2 weeks after a year on a job. So they'd have their personal time, which is 48 hours, and the sick time. Figuring all those numbers out, it came to about $76,000 in overtime. But that doesn't count if we have any real big fires or anything like that could change it some. But 76 seems to be where I can cover.
Is that based on a 16-hour schedule?
16 hours.
Okay,
yeah.
so if you reduce it to
If we have
14, like,
we could drop it a little bit because there'll be an overlap, or we wouldn't
Right.
have to pay. I just haven't had the time to really hash those numbers out fully. I started it and got on to something else. But we can do that. It might work out where we save a few bucks.
Because the other thing I think we need to be looking at is, I personally, and this is my own feeling, it's up to you, but I think we need to be a little bit conservative in how we set up these new shifts. In other words, if we want to get into 7 days a week, that's a huge jump from what we're doing now. If we go a little more conservative, see what kind of problems we want more coverage than 8 hours, obviously. This would give you 14 hours, 5 days a week. If we did Monday through Friday.
It'd be 8 hours a day, 5 days.
8 hours, yeah. So
7 days a week.
So it'd be, 8 and 6 if there's an overlap, it'd be 14 total.
No, it'll be 8 hours straight, and there'll be 7 days. Each day there'll be somebody in the station for 8 hours. There'd be no 2 shifts, because I don't have the people to do that.
All right, I'm not sure how you're figuring that out, but.
Yeah, well, I can show it to you later on, but what it would just kind of is that they alternate the days that they work. They wouldn't be working. So each there'd be 2 groups of a captain and a firefighter work 5 days, and then they're off for 2, and then the other 2 would work. So basically, there's at least 3 people working every day of the week, except for Monday, which there would be 2, and then I could be the third person. And what that would allow is the ability to not have to worry so much about covering a shift when somebody's off, because there's 3 people working, so one could take the day off and still have 2. And then during the week I could fill in if I needed to. Saturday and Sunday is just as bad a day as during the week for not having people, especially in the summertime, where it could be very sparse on response. And I thought maybe that would be a better working solution to increase the coverage. It would be 7 days. But we can look at doing the overlap and compare the 3 of them as to which would be the best bang for the buck. We could probably lose, I don't want to take a guess on that, but with the overlap there would be a reduction of some for overtime cost. But it might add up some for training and all that if the overlap is in between the 2 shifts. And whereas with the straight 18-hour, the group, the 2 that are working on the evening hours when we do our training would be on duty already, so there wouldn't be any overtime costs for those 2. The only downside to having it that way is that we got to figure out how we're going to swap them around, so that not the same 2 people are working from till 10 o'clock at night every week, and it is only 2 people on duty instead of 3, which safety-wise in a firefighting situation, 2 is really, you can't do much. 3, it's not perfect, but you can do a lot more with 3 people than 2. The other thing to look at is if we do with any of these things that we do with the holidays. Is currently the way we're doing, and I would assume that if we're doing Monday to Friday, it would stay the same. Is that holidays would be nobody in the station. If we go to the 7-day-a-week schedule, then that will increase some overtime costs for people that are in the station to cover, because it would be 7 days.
So with a 7-day-a-week schedule, you wouldn't have an evening shift?
No,
or a night
it'd just
shift?
be Monday to Friday, and it'd be 8 to 4.
You're the-
But there would be people in the station on the weekend.
You're the firefighter, not me, but would it be preferable to have people on duty Monday to Friday during commuting hours when you get higher potential for accidents?
It could, but we have as much of a potential for problems on Saturday and Sunday also. The thing is, with 2 people, if we do have a call, there's very little they can do by themselves with 2 people. And that's where the big concern is, especially during commuting times. If we have a really bad wreck, 2 people can't handle it. We have a fire, 2 people.
I can understand the fire, but
Yeah.
why is that true for an
Because
accident, a car
if we
accident?
have to use the jaws, it takes more than 2 people to operate them. You have to also have someone, watching to make sure there's no fires. 2 people, you get 2 centered on doing something of getting the person out of the car, so you're not seeing the big picture. Make sure that it's cribbed right, so you'd have to call for help right away, and most likely be mutual aid. With 3 people, 1 person can kind of oversee the whole operation, get on the radio and ask for help. Whereas with 2 people, if you're dealing with a person that's really badly hurt in the car, you can't talk on the radio and do the things that you need to do to get the person out.
Aren't we still talking about call guys responding even if there's 2 people? I mean, I'm assuming.
There would be, but again, it depends on the time of the week, who's available, and how many people show up. It's very unpredictable as to how many people show us. The numbers I gave you, the report of the last 2 months, it's not consistent. We have days we'll have 6 people show up, and we'll have days it's just the 3 of us.
Do you get more people showing up on weekends rather versus, that would be my guess, but.
We could, but then again, we could have no one show up, because if it's a nice day out, they're out with their families.
How many reserve firefighters we have now?
Right now, we have 21. I have
21.
one application that we're in the process, get ready to process.
In the last year, how many,
21. We
how
have,
many, any new in the last?
no, the last 2 years, we haven't had any new people. Well, last year, we didn't have, the year before, we had one.
I'm recalling now, going back, last year at this time, I think you said there were 27,
There's 24 of us right now.
24.
Right, and then I had Donnie Murray retire.
Yep.
Roger retired the last couple of years, and I had a couple of people move out of town.
Yep.
On a-
Has anybody shown any interest?
I have one that we have to...
Just one?
Yes.
Okay, and if we bring 2 new firefighters on, how much training will they require?
If the 2 full-timers that we're doing,
Yep.
hiring, one of the things that we had in the job description is they're firefighter 1-2 certified already, so
Okay.
they'll be able to hit the ground running.
Good. Okay.
The new call guy would have to go through the academy,
Okay.
and I'm getting ready to set up an interview with him when I have a few minutes.
I would think, with the fire station moving into the center of town, there'd be some people from the other side of town that would think. Maybe,
There's always that potential.
Yeah, hopefully.
So basically, what we're looking at is making either a choice for you or with our recommendation from the board that either it's going to be a 14-hour with an overlap or doing the weekends.
And that's your proposal here, so I'm just a little
Well,
confused.
there was a proposal I was told to present.
Right.
And that's what I presented. And I've been working on the other one as an alternative that we could discuss.
Yeah,
That's what was asked for, and that's what I presented.
yeah, right.
Was 16 hours. But
And Dave is suggesting you modify that to 14 hours.
I can modify that to 14 and see how much a reduction in overtime I can get. I couldn't give you a real hard number on it right now.
Yeah, right.
See, the other thing too, if we have an overlap a little bit with 2 new firefighters, I'm thinking that especially for this first year, it's gonna give them some time to get acclimated to each other, because part of firefighting is teamwork. And if you put 2 guys on one shift, 2 guys on the other, and they never see each other, never work with each other than a major fire, which you don't want that to be the time when they start working together. So, I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of, we need to save some money, number one. I think we need to put, the idea being that if you're short, like on the evening shift, if we look at on a somewhat of a basis of having, if call guys are available to come in and work some hours, which would figure into the budget process. In other words, the goal is to have 3. On the other hand, if we have, on routine medical calls, you mentioned in your, that we could just dispatch 2 and not, and if we could just, you get a call for someone fell down and broke their arm. I mean, we don't
Right.
need 5 firefighters.
No,
there.
what would happen is with the second shift on, that would just be handled by them. There wouldn't be any callback or call. It would just be the guys in the station that could handle it. That would save us some money on overtime and stuff like that, because there wouldn't be a need. There's people in the station to respond to trucks.
The other thing I'm looking at is it might be an issue of, next year's budget, we look at hiring another guy. It may be that it's cheaper to hire another person than it is to just pay overtime. So, I mean, for the next year, it's gonna be very fluid, in whatever the schedule is set up and how it's working, and you'll have to monitor it, and we'll kind of keep an eye on it and help you out where we can, and so on and so forth, and hopefully the guys will cooperate at the same time too, because
Right.
they're not used to working a second shift,
No, it's a
there's
big
a lot of issues
change.
involved.
There's a big change to a lot of things.
Well, but the key criterion should be, or key factor should be, what is the best coverage for the town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems to me that it's more important on the evening shift than on the weekend, but,
Yeah, I would prefer to see it Monday through Friday. That way,
Yeah.
we're not, at this point, we're not getting involved in holiday issues. Weekends become another problem because people want weekends off. And the other thing I think is on weekends, if you got 4 full-time firefighters plus yourself, that, you know, we kind of put someone on call and say, hey, you know, everybody who's going to be around this weekend to respond to calls.
What we've been doing for the last 20-plus years is the overtime, it alternates between the two of them right now. So one week, if he's available, will go to calls, and that include the weekends. And that's from, right now it's 4 to 7 at night, all day on Saturday and Sunday, and from 5 to 8 in the morning. Both of them would come in the morning because there's usually nobody around at that time. And then one of them would come in from 4 to 7. And most times we get somebody show up, at least 2 go out. But what I would propose to do with the 16-hour to 14-hour schedule and Monday to Friday is that I would have 2 of them available Saturday and Sunday to get on to go to a call, and it would still alternate like it is now, where 2 would have the ability to go to calls, and they're not on call, but if they're available, they go. And then if it's really bad, then all 4 of them would be coming.
How's it work now, Chief? If you're going to have 2 people in the station, say for a call comes in at 6 o'clock at night, do they go to the scene, or do they wait for a 3rd guy to show up? How do you do it now? In other words,
what they'll do now is if it's a medical call, they get 2 people in, they'll try to go out as soon as possible. But if we have a fire call, we try to fill a truck up with at least 3 people, and that's what the I am responding board is. If we have a call, you get on your phone, you're responding, and it pops up on the screen so we know who's coming to the station and where they're coming from, because we pretty much know where everybody lives. And then the driver and the officer could determine, all right, do we wait for him to come or tell him to take the next truck? And hopefully there'll be some more people coming. But we try to, on anything more than a medical call, the goal is to have at least 3 people on the truck, because 3 sets of hands are better than 2.
So you don't leave the station until you have 3 on a fire call?
We try to stay in the station until we get 3. If no one else is coming, we'll go. But that's what the joy of the I am responding screen is. We know if there's anybody else coming. If there's nobody on the screen, then the truck goes.
Yeah.
If there's somebody on there, we'll wait until they get there.
It's usually 2 or 3 hang around the station.
Yeah, well, but they're all getting full-time jobs, so they don't hang
Yeah, I
around
know,
anymore.
I know. But when I've been down there.
Yeah.
with cell phones, 99% of the time you know exactly what you're going to, or more or less. How's that working out as far as having an idea of what you're going to?
Yeah, well, between the pager and the phone app that we have, where it pages, everybody knows what the call is. Even if they don't have their pager with us, if they have their phone, then they know we have a call.
But the dispatcher has a pretty good idea of whether it's
The
a minor
person called.
accident, a major call. You know, and I understand it doesn't happen all the time.
Most of the time, they can tell by the voice of the person on the other line. However, there's been calls that come in and not being as advertised. But it's...
Yeah, you just don't know.
You don't know. But if there's something really bad, then they can tell by the inflection of the person calling that there's something bad going on. And then there's some that they say everything, and you got to assume that it's everything, and it's not what it's not what was relayed to the dispatcher.
People are in panic mode
Yeah.
at the time, you know.
But yeah, you can pretty much tell by the voice of the dispatcher if it's something serious. You can you sense that there's something wrong.
Having ridden with them, the professionalism is,
No, it's a tough job.
I can't say enough about our firefighters. They really are highly professional in how they interact with the people in really tough situations.
You're going to be able to get everything in the new station by May 1st?
I hope so. I gotta find out when the phones are gonna be in. That's the big problem right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I can't do anything without phones.
I think,
I talked to
Jason's
Jason.
back over there this week, he was on
Yeah,
vacation
I
last week.
talked to him this morning, and he said we can start bringing some stuff over, so.
Yeah.
We're still gonna be running out of there until the phones are up, so.
Right, right.
Okay, so you're gonna give us a 14-hour, modify this
I
into
will
a
try to,
14-hour
yeah,
plan?
but I don't know how much difference to from 76,000 it'll be.
Right.
Yeah, it's a guess, but I mean, we're just looking at, in other words, I think one of the things we need to, by hiring the 2 extra people, we're looking for extra coverage, but we also have to be cognizant of, you know, the increase in overtime,
Right.
which is good, we, you know, we understand it's gonna happen. And, so it's not so much maybe how much you cut back on this, but just monitoring as we go forward, because it's all kind of
Yeah.
a juggling act for the next year,
I
including
would-
the station.
Yeah, I would say 76,000 would probably be a safe number for right now. And then I can work on if it can be reduced. I'll have a better idea. Because I don't know how much, probably going to be about $4,000 difference by cutting, you know, in half the overtime rate. Just by going with the holiday stuff that I worked out, the half-time I would have had to include, it was about $4,700. So that's probably what we're looking at of a difference, is about about $47,000 to $5,000.
Chief, there's a reduction here on fire prevention. Very minuscule. but-
Yeah, it's because I have a lot of stuff left over from a couple of years. I don't have to buy as much when we
Okay.
do the common thing for the school.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's all handouts and stuff, and
Okay.
so I found a better vendor than what I was using. So
And how's the fire alarm, the old box game system?
all the town buildings are off of it now.
Yeah.
I just finished writing the letter to the other 20 businesses. I'm planning on having that go out on Friday, and they will have until October 1st of next year to get off the system, and that's when it's going dead. So they're going to have a deadline, which is about what everybody around us has been doing. They're doing between 16 months to 2 years.
And then the telegraph system becomes
Then
an antique.
It becomes an antique, and I talked to the light department about helping taking it down. So,
Okay. Good.
but yeah, it's finally moving forward, and I've only 2 buildings I got to test. One was this. I didn't want to interrupt union negotiations today in the library, but so far everybody else, all the other buildings are working fine. So I'm assuming these 2 are going to work too.
Have you and Chief Dumas worked out like any mutual costs, like the generator maintenance and stuff like that? How's that being handled?
That hasn't been, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to him about today, but we didn't have a chance to figure out the trash and the generator. I
Right,
figured
trash.
it'd be 50/50, what I'm assuming.
Probably the grounds too,
Yeah.
You know, grounds care is
Yeah.
going to be another one that combined together at least to
Yeah, it,
somehow or other juggle it. It's cheaper to do it that way. than-
yeah. No, I would imagine we'd split it 50/50. Although I am paying the electricity for his transmitter up at the top of the hill, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can work it out, it's just
Yeah.
a matter of making sure. The other thing, my other question is custodial.
That's a good question. One of my call guys came up with a novel idea that maybe hire them to come in and do a couple hours a week. One of them in kind of on a rotational basis to do the cleaning. I said I would look into it. I don't know.
We talked to we talked to Chief Dumas. He was requesting an extra 5 hours a week for his
Mhm.
custodian, and then he's the same custodian that does our buildings down here.
Right,
so
and he's kind
we're
of
juggling back and
maxed
forth. So
out
we
with-
kind of suggested that you and him and us should get together,
Yeah.
come up with a plan, and if you got a couple of call firefighters that want to do that, to be hired as part-time custodians, but with these new buildings, we certainly don't want to see them
Oh, no.
not
no,
maintained.
Yeah,
and-
that
and
was
they all have
definitely-
kitchens and showers and
That need to be
locker
cleaned
rooms and
and,
things like that
Yes.
really need some custodial or maintenance care that you
Mhm.
don't want to let go. So maybe if you talk to Chief Dumas and if Debbie wants to get involved, or I'll come down and we'll see if we can work out something on custodial.
Sure.
On what you can wear, and if you got a couple of guys that are interested,
Yeah.
by all means, that might be, that might solve our
The hour
problems.
problem,
Yeah,
because I know the current guy, he's,
yeah, he's limited as to how many,
But we would have to.
and we don't wanna lose him here.
We just wanna make sure we posting,
Yeah.
creating job description.
Yeah, I mean, we'll post it,
posting
not to
jobs,
go
and-
through that, but at least if we come up with a game plan, it might be somebody that has nothing to do with the fire department, but at
Okay.
least
Yep.
it's something we need to address, and be adjusted if we start out with a certain number of hours and turns
Yeah.
out not to be enough or whatever, then we can make that change. But another one of those things, when the more buildings you get, the more
right.
costs you run up.
Yeah, one of the things
Maintenance costs.
we were kind of discussing it amongst ourselves would be the office area, would be where we would have the janitorial, and we figured that we could handle apparatus bay and the back area, because it's not going to be used as much as the rest of the building right now. But we figured the office area would definitely need to have some kind of,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll talk about it along the way here, just
Okay.
something that we can post it, because like Debbie says, we'll have to post the positions and any new positions, and hopefully, we usually have a hard time finding anybody that is willing to do it, so that's the hardest part, because part-time custodial with a full employment these days, it's not a lot of people hanging around looking for part-time work.
So, when do we have resolution on the hours of coverage? I'd like to nail that down, so, not nail it down, maybe, it's a poor choice of words, but, because coverage can always be changed. but-
we've got a class on building systems tomorrow afternoon, and I got an inspection tomorrow morning. I could have possibly by Thursday, hours kind of worked out a little bit better.
14 for the.
14,
Right.
yeah, I
Okay.
can work at that and see what the numbers, how much they change.
Okay.
It'll probably be somewhere around
I
$5,000.
guess we're looking at probably next Monday, right? We need to approve these
Well,
budgets.
I guess I had kind of a question here, because we did lose that week last week without having a chief on this. So he's scheduled to meet with the finance committee tomorrow night. We have to get the budgets done this week, so, for him to go back and recalculate, and, maybe if the board would, maybe authorize one or two selectmen to meet with me and the chief and get this budget done, tomorrow, so that, he just has to run a number, and it may be about $4,000 difference in the wage line.
About that, it's not going to be,
We'll have some tentative approval tonight.
Well, why
pending
don't,
that.
why don't we reduce it 5,000 for tonight's purposes? That'll give you time to run the numbers, and we can, because we're at the end of our rope now with, in terms of time, we gotta get these things done before town meeting, so would that be acceptable to you, Debbie, if we approve this budget with a $5,000 reduction in overtime?
Well, if
If
that's
that
what he
meets with
thinks,
your
I don't wanna
approval.
say, I don't know.
I wouldn't go any more than 5,000.
No, we do
No.
five, and we understand that later in the year, in other words, we get through the summer and have a fall town meeting,
Right.
or we get to the spring and we're obviously got difficulties.
Well, the other
We
thing-
understand we're gonna have to reassess.
The one
Take a
thing I
look.
can say is that these numbers are based on no contract for the firefighters.
Right, well, and the
So that-
contract will
Chief doesn't
increase
put
the,
in the step.
I put the step in,
Okay,
correct,
yes. So that has to be voted on separately.
Okay.
By town meeting.
I was
and
just,
we'll account for
okay.
increases in overtime with the budget.
Yeah, this is with the step in it,
Right.
so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
if we dropped 5,000, I could probably
Like I
make
say,
it work.
and we understand that as we move along here, that this is a huge new program, huge new building, that there may well be some changes along the way in the year. We just ask you to, if you see something developing, give town administrator a call.
Okay.
Or come over, because we want to catch it before it gets out of hand.
Okay.
So we have a pretty good idea. We're 1,000% behind you and the fire department. It's a whole new program for all of us, and we just want to be on top of it, so.
Okay, so I'll make the adjustment to it and then try to get that to you as soon as I can.
All right, I'll give you a motion to approve the,
Tomorrow?
I will,
Because you have it,
I will
tomorrow night.
go back to the station
Oh,
and
okay,
change
good,
it and
tomorrow.
send it to you. I'll email it to you tonight.
yeah, I'll give you a motion to accept the chief's budget with a $5,000 reduction in the
I'll
wage.
second that. Chief, oh, go ahead.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
One
opposed? The ayes
last
have it.
question, Chief. I've been wanting to get up on TV on, there's been a fire somewhere. Do you get a report from like this state fire marshals on all, fires in a certain month or something like that? And the costs?
Once a year, they send out a report, and they'll tell you who's had fires and how much the dollar loss was.
Yeah.
If there was something really extraordinary about the fire, they'll do a separate
Just seems to
report
be an
on it.
awful lot of fires this past winter.
Yeah, and no. I mean, it seems like it,
Yeah.
but
Maybe it's just the reporting.
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
It gets more instantaneous than what it once did, and there has been a lot of fires, but I don't think any more than
I just wonder if it's carelessness or,
a lot of that.
smoking or whatever.
In carelessness, it could be a very broad term over a lot of different things. Now, emergency management is level funded, expense-wise, and the $1,000 increase for the stipend. So,
Give a motion to approve the emergency management as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'll have that to you, Debbie, in about 25 minutes.
Well, no, thanks.
Okay. I'm here. I might as well just do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, new business number 1 was a request from Crown Castle to approve a modification of its equipment at a cell tower in 124 Haverhill Street. Debbie, that's not ready for
That's
tonight?
not ready yet. They said our document was not correct. So,
Okay.
yes, fix that.
New business number 2 is discuss a request from the Triton Regional School Committee to have the Board of Selectmen Chairman, me, sign a letter, or letters, I guess, to our representatives in the Massachusetts legislature regarding the need for additional school funding. At the District Communication Committee meeting last week, they asked the 3 towns, or the 3 chairs, if they would be willing to join them in efforts to advocate for additional state funding. And Bernie was nice enough, in addition to doing all his water department duties, to take a crack at that letter. He really dug into the weeds, and you have the letter before you, so.
Oh, looks good.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Bernie.
Thanks, Bernie,
Thanks,
for doing
Bernie.
that.
Thanks, Brent.
Almost.
Old business number 1 is a Pine Grove School project update. Joe, anything to?
I don't have anything really new. We're working on the Lower South, and the project is still on time, and they're meeting all of their target dates, and we're over 60%. And I will be signing that PFA that we voted for, the selectmen voted that I could sign for the MSBA.
Okay, thank you. Old business number 2 is fire station and police station project update.
Yeah, that's moving right along. The police moved into the dispatch center in the old station, the old renovated station last week. They've been working on some minor issues with security cameras and so on and so forth, those kinds of things that are always causing a problem. As you heard from the fire chief, we're planning on him being in the new station as of May 1st. We'll be out of the old station downtown as of May 1st. And hopefully, we'll find out this week on the status of when the paving's going to be done up there, which is, I don't think the plants are open yet, but they should be opening up in the next week or 2.
Should.
And then, once the ground is unfrozen, we'll be planning on landscaping and planting trees and shrubs and bushes, so it's all in the queue. It's just a matter of when the weather cooperates and
Still in
the
mud
big
season.
things and everything else is moving along.
Okay, thank you. Old business number 3 is to review draft ballot questions. We need to finalize the wording of 3 draft ballot questions. 1 is a binding question, and the other 2 are non-binding. The binding question concerns the wording on the ballot concerns making the treasurer collector position, an appointed rather than an elected position. The wording on the ballot has been approved by our town council. The wording is, shall the town vote to have its elected treasurer/collector become an appointed treasurer/collector of the town? The wording, according to town council, this wording is set by state law. Our town council has also recommended that we vote to open the annual town meeting to place an article on the warrant similar to the article from 2011 and to vote to close the warrant. And Debbie's going to work on the language of that article with Tom Mullen. So I guess we need a vote to,
I'll give you a motion to open the annual town warrant.
Second.
motion to open the annual town warrant has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. So we need to vote to,
To place the article and to close.
Right. I'll make that motion. To
So
place the
second.
article on the ballot.
motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And finally, we need to vote to close the warrant.
Keep it a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Just real quickly, Mr. Chairman, while we're on television, this is a critical, we voted this, tried to vote this a few years ago, and it passed the town meeting, but was voted down by a small margin
Narrowly,
at the ballot. Treasurer collector is a critical position. Right now, to be treasurer collector, all you have to do is be a registered voter in town. You don't need any other qualifications than that. And we certainly don't want someone getting into that position. As you saw, the treasurer was here tonight. She handles the bonds, the billing, there's a myriad of things that she does, and we need to have someone that's well qualified. So that's why we're putting it back on the ballot, and I think every meeting we'll try and talk about it. People have questions, call us or call the office. It's a critical position. It's well paid and deserves to be well paid, but at the same time, we deserve to have a treasurer collector, and Karen Summit would certainly be the one to be appointed at this point, but we deserve to have a collector that knows what they're doing and how to handle bonds and loans and payrolls, and there's so many activities that need to be done. So I just encourage people to have an open mind on this, and we hope support at both the town meeting and the election.
Just to make a picky point, anybody in town, any registered voter can take out papers to run for that office. But they would need to get certifications to continue in that office under the state law, I believe.
Certifications?
Yeah, they have to meet some certain regulations for the.
Yeah.
I think it's
Treasurer.
voluntary through the mass collector and.
Yeah, I think
Is
they,
that
I think they're voluntary. They're not- there's
Totally
no-
voluntary?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it is.
Yeah, Karen
Because
goes-
we're lucky enough that all three who are serving in that office right now all have a master's degree.
And Karen goes away a couple days during
Yeah.
the summer to go for training.
Right.
So she keeps up to date on everything that's
And
required of the.
we were fortunate when the last treasurer collector retired, that Karen worked in the office and she ran for the position and took over, and she knew exactly what she was doing, so.
Right.
Right, so there's,
It's an absolute critical position, and we can't function without it, having someone that doesn't know what they're doing, is not qualified. It's
yeah,
just-
there's no guarantee that the next person
No.
after Karen would be either qualified or be willing to
Right.
take certification or training, so.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, as the board will recall, we've previously voted to put two non-binding questions on the ballot. One is to change the Rowley Board of Selectmen to the Rowley Select Board or something similar to that, and the other one concerns possibly banning or limiting plastic bags, use of plastic bags by retail establishments. So I tried to come up with how those should be worded, and so the first one, the wording of the ballot question would be, should the town vote to change the name of the Rowley Board of Selectmen to the Rowley Select Board or to a similar gender-neutral name?
Yeah, I know I've seen in newspaper articles, most of the selectmen that no longer call themselves Board of Selectmen, Select Board seems
Yeah,
to be
it seems to be getting,
overwhelming choice.
Mhm.
It's easy to say and easy to remember.
Yeah, some towns-
You get too complicated,
some towns choose town council with an I, which I think is very confusing, because you
Yeah.
have a town council with an E, and and
Yeah.
a council with an I. It's very confusing.
That's usually the Plan E form of.
Oh, I don't know.
Where
Yeah.
they're the legislative body, and there's usually, it's either like a town manager with, I think it's like, maybe Winthrop would be an example, with a town council.
Wakefield has one too, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That's
would-
what Tom said.
But I mean, I could be wrong.
I would go along, I think select board.
Yeah, I
is-
think select board.
Does the trick, it's easy and makes it gender neutral, I think I'd be more than happy to be called a select board member.
Yeah. The other one is, should the town vote to ban or otherwise limit the use and distribution of single-use plastic checkout bags by retail establishments in the town? So again, I'm not asking you to endorse this, but actually just to endorse the language at the language.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that gets to be a complicated
Yeah.
question because of the types of plastic and styrofoam deal. So if the town votes to do that, then I think we need to set up a group that can, take a look at the options and come up with.
And what would be the options that we would put in place that
Yeah.
could be used?
The surrounding towns have like a heavy-duty plastic bag that you can buy at the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they use them, I see them in town being used.
I got some old Pine Grove School canvas bags that
Yep.
we use. But,
But-
the answer to this really is the state needs to come up with some legislation.
Yes,
So
I
every
agree.
town's the same, that way
Yeah.
it would be just so
Yeah, I
much
mean,
easier.
it
But in the
puts
meantime-
everything on us. It's hard to believe the state would do that.
Okay, so,
You have them.
so do we need to open the,
No,
No.
if that's the final
Those are
wording,
just-
it just helps to get that to the town clerk. She's gonna be working on the ballot.
do we need to vote on that, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Vote
so
on
can
the
we
final
vote
wording.
to approve the language for both of them together?
Make that motion to approve
Second.
both.
Motion to approve the language of both has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Old business number 4 is to discuss the reserve fund request for the annex and town hall budget. We had some unforeseen and costly repairs made to the town hall and the annex during FY19. These repairs included replacing the water line to both buildings from the street, repairs to the basement air conditioner at the town hall, which cools the servers and RCM equipment, repairs to the annex heating system, and repairs to the corroding annex heating condensate return pipes. These repairs have depleted the budgets for the two buildings. Debbie's going to be requesting a reserve fund transfer from the Finance Committee to cover the account shortfalls for the town hall and the town hall annex in the amount of $4,850 and $6,300 respectively. For FY20, a capital request is being made to replace all of the 2-inch condensate piping at the annex.
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the transfer request.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Budgets. First one up is the Finance Committee, which shows a 0.1% increase.
Point.
I'll give you a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the town accountant.
I give the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the assessors.
I'll give you the motion. We saw when they come in last week, and then we told them to come back with a reduction, so.
So does this eliminate the expanded hours?
Expanded hours for the administrative position,
They've been-
not for the assessor, but the
Oh, okay,
administrative position.
okay.
I'll give that motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Personnel, 0% increase.
Give you a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Harbor Master.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Department Schools, Triton.
I'd like to make a brief comment, Mr. Chairman. That, every year we discuss the increase in the Triton budget. And we really need to recognize that there's large increases in Essex Aggie, and as well as large increase of the Triton budget, which we said we could cover this year. We're getting large increases to Essex Aggie and to Whittier Vocational Tech. And those are budgets that we have no control over. And we have to okay them, but just keep in mind that when we talk about the school budgets, we need to keep in mind that we're dealing with 3 schools, not just Triton.
Right.
And, it's really hitting our budget very hard. And Triton, and Whittier and Essex Aggie every year seem to be increasing the numbers of students that go to those schools.
Yep.
And those schools do charge a lot more per student than what we pay for Triton, so it's a double-edged sword.
So I thought the good news in terms of Triton was relatively good, 4.05% increase.
Yeah.
Essex Aggie is showing a 76% increase. That's just based on additional students, right? I mean, it's not-
Yeah.
Basically.
No,
I'm
just
sure they got an
additional.
increase in per student.
And Whittier is a smaller 9.6%, but there's nothing we can do about those.
In the Essex Technical High School, you are comparing it to an FY19 number that's not correct. We weren't told that there were 7 students in school this year. We budgeted for 4. They really told me you're probably gonna have 3. So I will need a transfer at the special town meeting
Oh.
to make up the difference of FY19.
That's on the Essex Aggie.
Yes.
Okay.
So we budgeted for 4 and we got 7? Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
to pay
budget,
for
that's the
seven.
budget. We don't find out how many students we got until the school,
Yeah.
but the budget's already passed. Like Triton, we know we use, for next year's budget, we use this year's population. Those other budgets, they tell us as the year goes along how many students they got. So
There's waiting lists, but we're short by 52,000, so when we really look at that number, it's not that off from 19 to 20, but
Yeah.
there is a waiting list. There's a senior that is graduating, but there's 2 people that have applied, so I think we have to plan for 8.
Bernie?
What's the actual aggregate amount of money we're sending to Essex Aggie and Whittier Voc? How much money, actually? It's like the percentage.
103,768 is Essex. And Whittier, including the capital assessment, is 408,538.
So those are substantial figures that
Yep.
we add on. So if Triton increases us by 4%, there's another 1 or 2% or whatever, however the numbers work out to add it on, so
So, almost 36,000 over
yeah.
in Whittier.
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the budgets for those 3.
All 3 budgets?
Yeah, all 3.
Second.
Motion to approve all 3 budgets has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Highway Department?
Mr. Chairman, that's a revised budget that we talked to the highway surveyor last week, and he came in with, took out the 2 employees he was looking for. If we can add them in later, fine. If not,
Oh, okay.
I'll give you a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion to approve has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. In the library?
I agree with the motion.
Second.
Now, this is eliminating the expanded hours, right?
Right, yeah, that's a revised one.
Okay, motion to approve the budget has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Insurance. Showing a 58% increase.
As the town administrator says, that's one that's greatly increasing because of the school project, police and fire. Obviously, the 2 new buildings and the updated school are all much more costly to insure, so that's where most of that cost is coming right
I
there.
think for the buildings, for the new contents inside
Yeah.
the police and fire, and for the building itself, the renovated from the school.
Yeah, police and fire is loaded with high-tech.
Sure.
Veterans.
Yeah. Motion. Motion?
Motion.
Approve?
I'll second it.
Motion to approve has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Group insurance.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I assume that's the property insurance?
Property casualty,
So,
liability.
and we get, the water department gets a percentage of that, is that correct?
Yes, and we have the statement of values reviewed every summer when we get that in. But you
Okay.
haven't had any new buildings. The material affect that. So it's workers' comp as well. So you did factor in it.
I put some in, yes, I'll check it. All right.
Okay.
The final one is group insurance, which there's a note here that per tonight's discussion, we will no longer be budgeting for these costs for the light department and water department out of this line. So this is, motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Just keep in
opposed?
mind too, we got a very good rate this year for health insurance. So
Yeah,
that really
Did we do the veterans?
helped out
No.
the line.
thought we did.
No?
Did I miss it?
Yeah.
You got it there?
Yeah.
Okay. Veterans,
I'll give you the motion.
Second.
motion.
That's the one that was the finance committee reduced that last week by,
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
They-
just so you're aware, that's all.
Yeah.
It's for the veterans' benefits, and it's really to speak to the fact that the utilization's been low, that the current director really works with the individuals that are using the system, and, you know, the trend has shown that we probably don't need the appropriation that we've been budgeting for, so
So
we
it
suggested a slight increase.
went down by 13,000.
Yeah.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion to approve has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Announcements. Earth Day event co-hosted by the Rowley Open Space Committee and the YMCA on Saturday, April 20th at the Dodge Reservation and Camp Cedar Mill, 399 Weathersfield Street from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Rain date is Sunday, April 21. The event is a day of fun for the whole family. Events include yoga at 9 a.m., trail clearing from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., YMCA Health Kids programs and exhibits, and 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. a community hike. For more information, call the Y at 978-356-1102. The town has the following vacancies: Agricultural Commission Associate, Cultural Council, Deputy Shellfish Constables, 2 positions. For more information, please contact the Selectmen's office at 948-2372. The Rowley Food Pantry is in need of donations. Donations can be left at the Rowley Public Library. The food pantry is open on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and on Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Give you a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.